Heroes of Time Legends. Murdoch's Choice. Written by Wayne Kramer. Narrated by Ed Romanoff. Prologue. Centerpiece. Fiddles and flutes trilled like the skipping of children, punctuated by lively drumbeat. Men guffawed in raucous laughter and clapped the shoulders of comrades, and enough mulled drinks had been consumed to poison the ocean. Here, upon the roof of the Wayward Sailors' Inn, it was just another celebration of old salts and jolly tars from the Seafaring Mercantile Guild. This was an inn of Warvonia within the province of Rockney, an old town situated along the kingdom of Tuscany's eastern coast. Not much ever changed here, and many of its inner workings happened out of the light of day. But at least one of its constants was the simple, subtle charm of a seaside town, with its rich, salty air and its maze of curvy, sloping streets that seemed impossible to navigate save to those who knew them. Starlina Murdoch downed a glass of honey-mulled wine with relish. At 14, she was just below the legal drinking age. Nobody here cared. Besides, she knew her limits better than most of the scalawags scattered about the rooftop terrace this evening. Tonight, the celebration revolved around the return of one of the guild's most renowned captains, her father, Captain Zale Murdoch of the Queenie, one of the sleekest, fastest, and well-outfitted square-riggers to scale the seas, named after what her father considered to be the greatest cat that ever lived. Its gilded figurehead was fashioned in the likeness of a roaring terran, one of the bipedal winged creatures from beyond the Great Crescent that could best be described as a humanoid dragon. Few in the kingdom of Tuscany had ever seen these creatures. Of course, her father was one who had. That was how he'd lost part of his leg. Starlina took another glass of wine from a passing servant's tray and leaned against the stone plinth of a statue as she sipped. She threw back her long brown hair with its streaks of light blue and glared at the statue's face. It was of a sea captain, pointing his cutlass in the direction of the ocean. Her father stood across the terrace, surrounded by fawning sailors resigned to laughing at every word the man spoke. "Never seen anyone party like those stiffs in Weston Zabarb," the man roared. "Blubber pots and jiggle queens, every one of them, huh?" Pop, pop! Starlina rolled her eyes and looked away beyond the inn, where stretched a calm and deserted courtyard, one of many that was relatively unchanged since feudal times. Soon enough, that courtyard would be filled with the boisterous din of drunken sailors stumbling away from this place. "Another glass, milady?" spoke a luscious voice from behind her. "Shall I arrange a carriage for your safe return home?" She returned a lopsided smirk, spinning to face the source. There stood Jensen Carrick, staring at her with beautiful hazelnut eyes that had hypnotized her since their childhood. His brownish hair had hints of muted yellow throughout, and his lean, square face had a handsome, angular jawline. "What you can arrange, Mr. Carrick, is to ready your horse and ride me upon your lap all around this city, until at some grave hour we arrive upon my house." The lad raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Carrick, I'm afraid I find it highly inappropriate to ride upon my lap any lady with whom I've not achieved first-name basis." She sat her half-emptied glass upon the stone plinth. "Jensen," she replied sharply, "just take me away from this place." Jensen raised an eyebrow. "So soon? The fun is just beginning." "I've already had quite enough of sailors for one night, thank you. All I can smell in the air here are sweat and alcohol." "It's not so bad once you get used to it," Jensen said with a chuckle. Starlina returned to observing the crowd, the music having just paused. Captain Murdoch had just brought in one of the most successful hauls of raw power crystals in the guild's history. She could hear her father's coarse laughter bellowing into the air. "The guy just looked at me and said, 'I never met a bridge I didn't burn.'" A fit of laughter followed from those around him. Starlina smiled in spite of herself. She gazed into the open sky, tracing the white planetary rings of Elioran. In the hazy air, the rings illuminated the land in an almost ghostly nightglow. She was glad that her father was respected in the guild. Still, he had been away for nearly a month, and since his return 2 days ago, he had spent maybe 10 minutes with her. Such was the way of seafaring merchants, an occupation she dearly wished her father could simply disavow. She knew it was the folly of a little girl, but she missed him. "Your father is quite the centerpiece," Jensen said. "It gives me all the more excitement that someday I should hope to be part of his famous crew." Starlina flashed him a glare. "Why must every man in this town take to the sea? Is there not enough to be done here upon the land?" Jensen chuckled dismissively. "Let the land be for those who like their vision hampered. Give me a clear horizon, the promise of adventure and discovery." "Overrated tosh, if you ask me," she said. "I don't think I could ever be with a man in the Seafaring Guild." She ignored the sudden concern in Jensen's eyes. "They're far too absent." "Some voyages are long," he said, "and some are short, but they come with great reward. And is it not true that time apart makes the heart grow fonder? Time apart leaves the heart to ponder, more like." "Well," Jensen said, "I think you should keep an open mind. If I could sail with your father's crew, well, there's none closer to reaching the guild's mastery bar. Imagine he does reach it. I could be one of the few sailors in history to be part of a crew under Grand Master status. We can take fewer jobs and the best jobs. They raise that bar every year. You might just grow old chasing after it. All they do is make it so no one could ever hope to achieve it." "Your father will," Jensen replied with an air of finality. Starlina absently picked up her wineglass from the plinth, swirling what remained of its contents. There would be no arguing with Jensen. Ever since he was old enough to know what sailing was, it seemed he had idolized her father. "Your birthday is just around the corner," Starlina said, swinging her hips enticingly. This year, on the 5th of Jovidor, Jensen would turn 17, the age when citizens throughout Tuscany could declare their desired discipline for consideration with their nearest vocational university. It was the only real chance anyone had to pursue a career path of their choice. Without an approved declaration, the guilders could assign civilians wherever they pleased. Rockney Vocational, just outside of Warvonia, was renowned throughout the kingdom for the quality of its maritime disciplines. At only 14, Starlina still had time to consider hers. Jensen, of course, already had his sights set on the seafaring mercantile discipline, but Starlina had not given up on him yet. He grinned. "So it is. And there are so many sea-related occupations that don't require sailing." "A little late for me to change course now," he said. She arched an eyebrow. "It's only the 33rd of Jervans. Plenty of time to make a change." He ran his hand gently through her hair. "Ah, Starlina, I so long for the day when you can join me upon a ship. Then you might see just how majestic it is." She shook off his hand. "I've been on a boat before, Jensen." "Not with me on it," he said with a wink. "And what discipline shall you declare, Starlina?" She licked her lips in thought. "I suspect it shall be whatever keeps my feet firmly upon the land, sir." Lute and cello chords sang out, whilst kettle drums pounded a beat. Brightly dressed minstrels in an upraised gallery took over to liven up the occasion. Jensen held out a hand. I hope your feet aren't planted too firmly. Care to dance? She took his hand. He took her waist. And together they floated about the terrace like youthful swans on a lake. As children, they had danced together countless times to music much like this. Yet, as Jensen's strong hands clasped her sides and twirled her with such control, suddenly the dance felt anything but childish. Song after song, they spun and glided about until nearly an hour had passed, like a few minutes. She was barely aware of anyone else around her. If her father had broken away from the men for any manner of doddering dance movement with his wife Lola, Starlena's stepmother, she was oblivious to it. Finally, the music stopped, Starlena breathless in Jensen's arms. Conversation picked up all around them just as before. Her attention was only on him. He held more than her sides. This boy, nearly a man, held her heart. In truth, he always had. If only she could make him see the joys of life. Life with her, without so itinerant a job as sailing, then all could be perfect. Jensen released her. "You've only gotten better at that," he said. She drew in a breath. "As have you, good sir. I have something for you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a polished gemstone like a pinkish-purple glass. "This is lilac kuntapite. It's a power crystal, and you might hear about its use in everyday household appliances, but this is a very pure form. It's said to align the hearts and souls of people who care for each other over great distances. Might be a load of rubbish, but who knows? I got a pair of them from a friend in the guild. So, now I have one, and so do you." She took the stone and looked it over, not quite knowing how to react. It was a genuine gesture, but with it came again that promise of great distances, a constant she'd already had to endure growing up with Zale Murdoch as her father. "It's beautiful," she said. "Thank you." "Let's hang 'em first, and then have the trial." Her father's voice had a remarkable ability to carry a broad distance. The men around him were in stitches, their faces red, likely as much from the drinking as the laughing. "That silly man will be the one to break the mastery bar?" she asked. "And I thought I was the one who's had too much wine." "He will, all right. You just wait and see. Your father's unstoppable. Captain Zale the Gale Murdoch. The man, the scourge, the legend." The nut-brown eyes of his dashing face looked into hers. He moved closer, very close, his face inching toward hers. She jolted back. "You haven't asked my blessing to approach like that." He smirked. "Sailors don't ask questions. They take action." He kissed her cheek and walked away, Starlena's heart racing and her mouth grinning from ear to ear.